how does smart places utilize the Cardano blockchain?
I could do. Okay. You can say we are utilizing it now with that we have the tokens on it, and we are going for the protocol in time to actually implement that on the Cardano blockchain. We also have something called Smart Places Pioneers. Those are the first one that, or the first that actually get to or buy the land plots that we have. The entire globe is connected with different or covered by hexagons, and we have these real-world locations. The Smart Places Pioneers buys these land plots or mint them when we had a round, and they actually monetize the data from this real world location. So if you go for a spot where you there are a lot of people interacting, like for example a mall, they will earn revenue from the ecosystem for actually having people using the app on that exact same land plot.
Awesome. So, my question is, I've used a lot of like social media app platforms, and I actually grew up in a small town in America, in Ohio, and apps like Pokemon Go or apps that were like geographically, they just wouldn't work for me because of the small town that I was in. And when I was reading your guys' light paper, it mentioned that a lot of the posts on social media are actually local, and they're also timed as well. So how do you guys plan on working with smaller jurisdictions and incentivizing users in those smaller jurisdictions so that the app works in places that aren't Miami or New York or other big cities in the world?
Yeah, maybe I say some few sentences to that, because the question is very, very good. But I think what's important is that we call it smart places. So places that potentially people come together and could connect there, right? So even if you have a smaller village or maybe a place where not millions are living, but maybe hundreds or thousands, even there are usually places where people come together in real life, right? So these places are potential smart places, and that's why we also started with the NFT land plot sale, right? Because there we have these pioneers, so people that have maybe a local knowledge about especially these places. So in a certain village, for example, they know, okay, in this mall, to a certain daytime, maybe there come people together. And that helps a lot. So it's not like you're sitting at home and use the app and wondering why no one else is around. It's always about what is the place where people would like to spend time with each other, because there is a potential for interacting with each other higher. But this is just the geolocation aspect. What we also have in place is the layer one, and this is social media like we know today, right? So this is not geolocation based. That means you also can reach out to people who are not directly around you. So we have these both levels.
Okay, awesome. I appreciate the answer for that. Are there any existing products out there like Smart Places that are centralized?
Definitely. There's in Europe, for example, this app called Yodel, for example, which has this geolocation-based aspect. But as you mentioned, this is fully centralized as far as I know. And from my understanding, also has not the approach what we have to empower users to build this ecosystem and finally participate in the gains and giving them a say how this ecosystem evolves and develops. So, but I think the closest competitor or the closest centralized application would be Yodel. And of course, when you think about Snapchat, you also see the friends who are directly around you. But the thing with Snapchat, for example, you see only your friends who you have listed in your contacts. And also, it's totally centralized, I think.
Yeah, and recently they also added like a map feature, and where you can kind of scroll around the world. And honestly, that kind of reminds me of this, but again, that is centralized. So I want to get in really to the value proposition. We're talking about users having the ability to be pioneers and purchase these, hexagon land plots in certain jurisdictions. And because of that, the data that is collected in there, they can actually earn a profit from that, from them actually owning those land spots. Is a certain percentage of that profit, actually going back into the DAO itself to fund, future development of the DAO to, push the DAO forward? How is the DAO, making money here other than, the market cap and, the tokens?
Yeah, when we talk about reflection, for example, we have, on the one hand side, we plan to have this buyback system, where we say exactly how you mentioned that a fraction of the revenues will be distributed to certain pools, we call it like this. And we are at this very basic stadium right now. But for example, what we have set up, or our first drafts say that, for example, a certain amount goes into marketing, a certain amount goes into development. And we also consider to have a share of this into a charity pool, for example. Because we say the use cases, what is possible with our app. If, for example, subsidizing places where people come together in order to do good. For example, to gather around to clean a park or to clean a beach, for example. Or we are also in talks with airports where we say, hey, come on, how would it be if your users have a possibility to connect to each other to share a taxi, because all the people or the majority takes the same route to the center. So those activities can also be subsidized by us out of these pools. And this is the basic structure we have now in mind, but it is still in progress and development.